Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer, and today with me, I have an amazing lady. I've had the opportunity to see her talk about what she does, and I thought that it's important for you guys to be introduced to her. So, without further ado, Lana, thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself as far as why you do what you do and why that you think that's such an important thing and how it relates to your personal story.
Thank you, Doctor. So I do what I do because I want to help people. It's just as simple as that. And I want to help more and more people as time goes along. I have been doing wellness education for the past 4 decades and really haven't done a lot of promotion for myself. It just seems like the career had a mind of its own and just kind of evolved. So, what I do and what I love to do is to help people that have issues of any kind, actually, identify that they have them, want to deal with them and to change what is not working for them very well and not serving them well. So I use the science of neuroplasticity to help people change their brains, to change their life for the better.
So, Lana, as you know, I'm a clinical neuroscientist. So everything for me starts from the top and flows inside out and down, top down.
Definitely.
So because of that, when you were talking about this, I realized that we have amidst us an audience of parents. And as you probably know, there are many people who have this idea about parenting and how it's going to go. And then, of course, then you have your kids and it goes in every which way, and out with it goes your career, your goals, your dreams, and somehow you find your places in places in life that you never thought you would end up in, right? So but to make the change, it would require this transformation, and this is kind of where you come in. I really wanted people to hear where to start if where they are currently is not where they want to be, basically. That how do we start and where do we start with this, basically?
Well, the first thing that I really want to make clear that has really brought me to this place is that people want information, and they go from webinar to summit to Google to wherever, and they gather all this information, and then they get information overload. And the reality is pick one and then start the action, the actualizing of what you need to do to change behavior. And it's not easy to do, as you know, because human beings love to be in their groove of comfortability, and they like to stay there, as unhealthy or as detrimental as it might be. So I help them identify what's going on. And whether it's, whatever the issue, it doesn't matter, because neuroplasticity is about changing the brain and changing your thoughts, because we know that 3 different things are critical in terms of what causes disease. And thoughts are up there. Right. Toxicity is another one, and trauma is a third. Right. And I really delve into those 3 areas a lot to try and see where the client is regarding those 3 things. And I delve into it, and I offer fun, interesting, I think, I've been told, opportunities that I have learned all these years, what I call the sweet spot, to implement into their lives. And my approach is a bit different than most others that I've seen or experienced or, studied. And that is that I have a movement approach because I'm an exercise physiologist and I'm a somatic movement therapist.
Awesome. Awesome. These are all
And
music to my ears because I know that when it comes to the brain, you can support it all you want, but if you do not stimulate it, then the support of food and rest and all these other things, they only go so far. Ultimately, your brain thrives on stimulation, and movement by far is the most superior way of stimulating the brain, contrary to video games and coffee and all these other things that people think can hack the brain, basically.
hallelujah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So that being the case, though, this becomes really important because you mentioned habits. And of
Yes.
course, when you're talking about busy parents and they're like, oh, habits and breaking habits, that's one more thing, and it's not going to be fun. I'm really glad that you mentioned you work with them in a fun way to establish
Yes.
habits. How did you, by the way, get involved in all of this neuroscience and stuff?
It's so interesting. First of all, you probably hear my accent. And I'm from South Africa, born and raised there, but I've been here 43 years in the States. I've lived and worked in 4 different countries. And when I came to the United States, I was aware of, I was a teacher in South Africa, a high school English teacher. So, but I come from a sports family. A very sporty family, athletes. We were all athletes. I used to do dance from the time I was 4 years old, and in what we called our Stedfords, which were competitions. And I started to learn more and more about the body. I started with osteoporosis and realizing that, maybe my bones are going to be starting, because I was very, very athletic. Anyway, fast forward, I came in contact. Well, I studied at that point to get a master's degree. I then did my trainings in the somatic movement and exercise physiology. And I focused all the time on my body, my physical body, and on spirituality. Those were the 2 things that were, but completely had no connection with my brain. It was there. I knew it was there, but I didn't know much about it. And then 12, 13 years ago, I came in contact with a program that I got certified in, which is a brain body program that I'm an international trainer in. And I've been training people all around this country and in Portugal and in Canada to teach this method. But 2 years ago, I developed my own method. I said, this is great and it's been amazing. And I've learned so much because 12 years ago, I discovered I had a brain. And that's kind of the history of this.
That's beautiful. Awesome. So in your experience, now you have 4 decades of experience. What are the typical challenges that you find people walk into the door with? What are the typical things that you hear about?
Oh my goodness. It ranges from anything to do with overwhelm, distraction, very disturbed sleep. Stress, of course, is number 1. No time. Oh my gosh, the list just goes on.
I think you just described like all of our audience members. All right. Yeah. So given those kind of challenges, what would be your number 1 or top 2 things that if they were watching this and they can take away and apply it and move in the right direction or make a difference in their life, basically?
Small steps. Because if you know that you have a huge issue, let's say stress, and you don't, if you don't recognize it every time you get stressed and do something at that moment in time, I teach people what to do as they feel stress in their bodies.
Right.
So I suggest that people really embody what's going on. This is your body, and your body's going to tell you when your heartbeat is fast, or when you have rapid breathing, or when you have a stomach like telling you the story, or a headache, or whatever that is. And I teach them various things that are literally a word or a breath or a movement, whatever resonates with them. And that would be the first thing, is just one small step. Identify, recognize, connect to what is happening in your body, so that you can then and understand what the process is too.
Right. Because actually what you said is really, really foundational, and it's deeper than just like taking the small step of awareness. Because with parents, we have this huge list of to-dos and tons of things to do, tons of places to be, and you come last. And many times when your body is trying to tell you something so that it can help support you, we try to kind of quiet it down so we can go on about our day, right? But then the problem is that as you try to stifle and quiet down this part that is important signal in how to support you better so you can accomplish your goals, you kind of deny yourself your own existence, your own identity, or your what your body needs so that it can go ahead and serve you. So that's a really foundational piece, that awareness of, acknowledge what's going on in your body and recognize that. That is really, really foundational there. And
Yes.
really, I can definitely tell that as soon as that awareness is there, your body has already started moving in the right direction. So
yes,
so that is foundational. So definitely.
yes, and that's the first thing that is, that I am a parent, and so I understand all the imbalances that happen. That's another thing, everything becomes scattered and imbalanced and out of sync.
Right.
And so, my whole approach is about harmony and harmonizing the entire body, brain, body, mind, spirit, brain. I call it the fourth dimension.
Okay. Cool. Very cool. Awesome. Any other tips or tricks?
Oh, there's so many.
I know you have so many of them, but what's the second step after you're aware of something? What would be an action thing?
So the action could be anything from shaking, which has been used for centuries, probably thousands of years actually, as a healing tool and to reduce cortisol, reduce stress, and kind of balance the brain to where you can think, as opposed to just be in that fight or flight or freeze mode. Stop. Just saying stop. It wakes you up. It wakes up the brain, and it's telling you, look, you can't go on like that, because that becomes chronic, and that becomes maladaptive stress response, and it becomes very inflammatory.
Absolutely.
And that's what we don't want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm going to do, because I know there's more coming. And of course, there's just so much we can give in a short period of time. So how can people find out more about you and connect with you? What are some of the best ways?
So they can go to my website, which is goodvibesconsultants.com. And they could browse there. They could set a call with me, a Calendly call. It's easily available on my website. I'd love to speak to people and, find out where they're at and what's happening in their world. I've worked a lot with trauma. So having personally experienced it when I lost my daughter, so I can be helpful there, I think.
And I actually wanted to mention on this topic, many people experience trauma without knowing that they've been subjected to it. That's another important thing, that sometimes you just go through experiences and you call them stressful, but it actually has a physiologic effect on your well-being. that lasts and stays with you. And unless you're, like you said, acknowledge it and recognize it and address it, it stays with you and it impacts
Abs-
the way you think, the way you make
Absolutely.
decisions.
For sure. It's interesting you say that because I'm working with a woman at the moment who it's the first time I've really experienced somebody who did not acknowledge her husband died 2.5 months ago, very tragically and very unexpectedly. And she did not realize that she was in trauma. She was just, out of the loop. And yeah, so she really thanked me for that, for, giving it a name and having her realize what was going on. So they could also call me if they wanted or text me 305-467-6486.
Awesome. Thanks, Lana. I'll be sure to go ahead and include that in the description of this video. So you guys want to definitely click on that and look at those. One of the important things we always encourage you to do is reach out for support, for connecting, because that's one of the important things that as well connected as we are with social media and our little phones, we are actually connecting less and less to the world around us. And that is one of the greatest assets of humans and humanity, the ability to be social and to connect to one another, to learn from one another. So teach that to your kids by making sure that you reach out, establish a support network for yourself, and tell them that it is possible, they're not alone, that it's always somebody available for them to seek counsel with. So very, very important. I'll be sure to do that. If you haven't already done so, click subscribe and make sure that you stay tuned for all the experts, the gifts and the expertise that they bring to this channel. And Lana, before we finish, any final words of wisdom for our audience members?
No, I would like them to know that there, like you just said, there is support out there. And it's, sometimes I understand that there's a certain malaise or lethargy where people just say, almost give up and just don't want to make that move and make that call or go onto a Calendly, but do it because it'll change your life.
Right. It can have a profound impact that you don't recognize going into it, but then afterwards, like, whoa, that was life-changing.
Right.
Exactly. Very cool. Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. Guys, stay tuned. We have more experts coming and we look forward to seeing you guys on future episodes. Cheers.
Thank you very much for having me.